On April 2026, Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te prepared to fly to Eswatini, his government's final diplomatic ally in Africa. But hours before takeoff, the entire trip came to an abrupt halt. The plane didn't have a mechanical failure, and the destination country was still ready to receive them. The flight was grounded because 3 island nations, Seychelles, Mauritius, and Madagascar, suddenly revoked their overflight clearance. Taipei has no plans to land a jet in any of those 3 countries and holds no formal diplomatic quarrels with their governments. A presidential flight was blocked thousands of miles from its destination, accomplished through administrative paperwork rather than military force. To understand how Beijing orchestrated this long-distance blockade, we have to look past political treaties and start with physical geography. Reaching Eswatini while avoiding active conflict zones in the Middle East leaves a Taiwanese flight with only one physical route, a direct path across the Indian Ocean. This map shows that path. To cross the ocean, the flight must pass through the flight information regions, the specific airspace jurisdictions belonging to Seychelles, Mauritius, and Madagascar. Under international aviation law, these countries possess the authority to grant or deny permission to anyone passing through their sovereign sky. They do not need to host the plane on the ground to stop it. Beijing identified this geographic bottleneck and pressured all 3 nations to close it. Geography created the physical obstacle, but forcing independent nations to act on Beijing's behalf required a different kind of pressure. Since the year 2000, China has issued over $170 billion in loans to 53 African nations. Eswatini is the single stark exception on the continent. It is entirely excluded from this lending network because it continues to recognize Taiwan. Taiwanese security officials say Beijing used specific financial threats to force the island nations to comply. They threatened to revoke promised debt forgiveness and to freeze the distribution of critical new financing. The final threat was the prospect of comprehensive economic sanctions. For small island economies where Chinese debt represents a massive portion of the GDP, these threats create an existential crisis. Closing their airspace became the only way to protect their balance sheets. Beijing has long disrupted Taiwan's travel by flipping partners. In 2017, Sao Tome cut ties before a visit. In 2023, Honduras did the same. April 2026 marks a shift. Beijing is now using third-party nations, countries Taiwan has no relationship with, to block its movement. The move drew immediate condemnation. The U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee and IPAC, representing 300 global lawmakers, warned that political will was placed above sovereign skies. Taiwan's president claims the trip is merely postponed, but the structural trap, the combination of geography and debt, remains in place. The map of global power now follows the lines of international debt. As Beijing demonstrated this week, controlling the credit of other nations allows it to turn sovereign airspace into a physical barrier, leaving Taiwan increasingly isolated.